Let's talk about why you feel the strongest chemistry with the people who often are the least compatible for you. You know the type, the connection feels so electric, you can't switch your brain off, you're thinking about them all the time. And you're telling yourself, well, this must mean something. This is my person. It feels so intense, so magnetic, and just so irresistible. And then it just crashes. Hard. And when it does, you're just feeling so confused because in your eyes, the chemistry was so real. You felt the connection. So instantly your brain is going to start looking for reasons as to why that connection broke down. Maybe the timing was off. Maybe he's scared. Maybe I was too much. Maybe if I hold on just a little bit longer, he'll change his mind. But here's the truth most people never realize. That chemistry that you're feeling isn't always attraction. More often than not, it's just a sense of familiarity. When you're calling it chemistry, it's often your brain thinking, this feels familiar to me. I recognize this. And that familiarity can often feel like home, even when home isn't necessarily a safe place. When you experience that spark with someone, your brain releases a surge of chemicals. Dopamine, adrenaline, oxytocin. The dopamine says, this could be rewarding. I'm seeking reward here. Your adrenaline is saying, pay attention, something's at stake here. And oxytocin is saying, bond with this person. Neurologically, it looks similar to a thrill-seeking response. Your brain is simply in pursuit mode. You're not thinking clearly, you're thinking quickly. And you're not grounded, you're activated. That rush that we're feeling isn't necessarily love, it's uncertainty mixed with a sense of longing for that person. So let's put this into perspective. If you grew up with inconsistent love, maybe a parent who was really warm and loving one moment but then really distant the next, or you've experienced these early relationships where love had to be earned in some way. You had to prove yourself. You had to be the good one. Your brain simply learnt to associate unpredictability with connection. Your attachment system has basically coded inconsistency as normal in love and relationships. So when someone shows up in that same emotional pattern, hot and cold, intense one moment and then withdrawn the next, your body is simply reacting to that from a place of, this feels normal to me. This is what love has always been for me. Now is my chance to prove myself so I can earn that love. And that familiarity that we're feeling in our body is what can often feel like chemistry with that person. In this moment, your brain is also engaging in something that we call confirmation bias. It starts scanning for evidence that reinforces the belief that something in this connection is special to us. So you're highlighting all of these moments where they're showing up great and they're leaning in and they're being attentive and showing you all of this love. And you start to ignore any moments where they start pulling away or they're showing red flags. You're not seeing those red flags in this moment. So you're building this kind of fantasy from all of the fragments of this connection. Meanwhile, calm, consistent, emotionally available people can often feel quite boring to us in a way. And it's not because they're lacking anything that we want in a relationship, because 9 times out of 10, these calm, consistent, emotionally available people are giving us everything that we want in a romantic connection, or at least what we say we want in a relationship. But because your nervous system isn't used to safety or feeling safe in a loving connection, that lack of chaos can often feel quite boring to us. If your baseline in love and relationships has been anxiety and chaos, calm can just feel quite empty. We get the impression that there's a lack of emotional connection. So yeah, if your past relationships were generally really chaotic, safe love just falls quite flat. And when your nervous system is so used to activation, that peace can be misinterpreted as a lack of passion. But that's not truth at all. That's just conditioning from our past, how we've grown to experience and believe love to show up for us. So let me ground this into something really real from my own perspective, but also from the experiences of so many amazing women that I work with. I once dated someone who was so calm, so emotionally reliable, just completely there and present. He didn't play games, he was steady, he was communicative, and just genuinely available for the connection. And all I remember thinking in that moment was, where's the spark? And back then I mistook that calmness for just a dull, boring connection. What I didn't realize in that moment that my nervous system wasn't bored, it was regulated. But it wasn't used to being regulated, so inevitably that relationship would go on to be sabotaged in some way. That absence of chaos can often feel really unfamiliar to our body, so our brain misreads that unfamiliarity with a lack of chemistry. But that is the turning point that we need to address. Peace will only feel boring to your nervous system if your body has associated adrenaline with attraction. And many people don't realize they're making this mistake. That really anxious part inside of you that wants to feel that connection, that wants to feel chosen, is confusing relief with connection. connection. So when someone starts to withdraw, your anxiety spikes. And when they return, your brain releases that dopamine and you feel a temporary sense of relief until the next chase for the next reward. And that relief can actually feel really powerful and often quite addictive. And this is why we can often get ourselves in the same cycles time and time again with the wrong types of people. This is what we call intermittent reinforcement. So when attention is given to us so unpredictably, the reward centers in our brain activate so much more strongly than if it were consistent. And it's the same principles that keep people hooked on gambling and slot machines. You never know when the next win is coming, so you just keep chasing it, hoping that the next time it's going to be even greater. So no, you're not crazy for wanting the next message from this person. You're simply conditioned. And the solution is never to try harder or to wait it out. The solution is breaking that reinforcement loop and regulating your nervous system so you can think more clearly again. Now, let's zoom out of this for a second. Chemistry asks, can I have you? Compatibility asks, can I build something with you? All chemistry wants is intensity. Compatibility wants consistency. Chemistry is the spark. Compatibility is the structure that keeps that flame alive. When someone pulls away and you feel that panic, your brain shifts into threat response. Your cortisol, stress hormone, increases, and your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for logic and boundaries, just becomes less active, and sometimes it just completely switches offline. And all of a sudden you've entered hypervigilance. You reread their messages, you analyze their tone, you start stalking their socials, assessing their behavior, and just generally obsessed. And this is simply a biological response to that uncertainty that you're feeling. But when you're constantly chasing that reassurance from something external to you, all you're constantly saying to your brain is, I need somebody else in order for me to feel safe. And that's simply how this loop strengthens. That's what keeps us stuck for so long. So how do we break it? First, it's so important to regulate your body before you react. When you feel that urge to reach out, pause. Just ground yourself. Release the tension that you're feeling in your body. Feet firmly on the floor. Just take that moment and name the emotion out loud. I'm feeling worried, I'm feeling anxious, I'm feeling stressed, I'm feeling sad. Whatever that emotion is. Research actually shows us that labeling that emotional state reduces activation of the limbic system, the emotional part of our brain. And once your brain settles again, you regain access to rational thinking. Your prefrontal cortex is back online. Now you're choosing rather than reacting. Remember, always calm your emotional state first before you choose to act. It's the easiest way to prevent us from taking action that we're later going to regret further down the line. Step 2 is to update your narrative. Instead of instantly jumping to, he's losing interest, I did something wrong, just treat your thoughts as hypotheses rather than facts. A really simple reframe to this might be, there could be many explanations for this behavior. My responsibility is to uphold my standards rather than trying to decode somebody else's mind. Thirdly, act from standards, not anxiety. If the communication starts to drop in a connection, you might say something like, I value consistency. If you'd like to continue this connection, let me know. And then just take a step back. And if they realign, you'll see it. And if they don't, their silence then becomes information to you. Now let's talk about compatibility in real terms. Compatibility is measurable. It shows up in patterns of behavior rather than the promises that people are telling you. So look for these really simple markers. Do their actions match their words consistently? Do they communicate really clearly without any form of manipulation? Do they make space for you in their life rather than constantly coming up with excuses as to why they can't? Do they take accountability for their actions rather than deflecting blame onto you or to someone else? Chemistry cannot compensate for absence of any of those things. Also notice how speed plays a part in this as well. High chemistry connections tend to move really fast. Deep conversations too soon, constant messaging, rushing that intimacy, and most importantly, love bombing. We aren't mistaking nice, consistent communication here. This is where the connection and conversation and level of intimacy becomes so intense so quickly. It feels really intense, but that intensity isn't intimacy. True intimacy is actually built really slowly through safety, trust, and real emotional pacing. And you can absolutely have both chemistry and compatibility, by the way. They often make for the strongest of connections, but only when your body is regulated. What we're saying here is not to mistake chemistry for compatibility. What's important is that there's both, not just chemistry. When your nervous system is nice and calm, you can experience desire without abandoning discernment as well. And you can feel that excitement without losing your boundaries. So here's a really powerful protocol that you can use next time you're feeling that overwhelming pull in a connection. Step 1, name it. My body's feeling activated right now. I need reassurance right now. I'm starting to not feel chosen right now. Step 2, regulate. Take time before responding. Remember, when we're making decisions from an emotionally heightened place, we can often regret that decision further down the line. So it's really important to regulate before you respond. And step 3, reality check. Are this person's behaviors consistent over time? Have I been flooded with all of this connection and all of a sudden they've pulled away? Are they showing inconsistency somewhere? And finally, step 4, pace. Keep your life really full. Don't collapse your world around you just because of this new connection. A real, true, safe connection should only enhance your life rather than consume it. Scarcity can make anyone look like the one. Stability is what reveals the truth. So let's flip the script on what you call boring. Green flags can often look really quiet. Clear communication, following up with you all the time, emotional accountability, respect for your pace, allowing you to take things at your own pace without rushing into things that you don't feel comfortable doing. These aren't boring traits for someone to have. They're the foundation for a relationship that truly lasts. And the type of relationship where passion can actually deepen because that safety exists in the connection. On those red flags, they often hide very well behind that intensity. Feeling the need to perform, extreme highs and lows, constant guessing, being told that you're too much just because you want a sense of clarity. Those dynamics never lead to a loving connection. They lead to exhaustion and burnout, and then you second guessing yourself. If you want that real, safe, lasting love, you've got to stop romanticizing the chaos. You can't say you want peace and then constantly chase someone who thrives in conflict. Chemistry is really important. I'm not denying that. It's important that you have that chemistry with whoever it is that you want to build a romantic connection with, but it's not the foundation of a lasting connection. If intensity is the only thing that's holding two people together, the moment that intensity fades is the moment the relationship ends with it too. If you want a relationship that lasts, that you truly feel safe in, you have to become someone who finds calm exciting, someone who sees consistency as really attractive, and someone who actually values emotional maturity over adrenaline. When love is nice and healthy, you don't need to obsess over anything. You don't chase, you don't analyze every word, and you feel safe enough to think clearly and inevitably then choose wisely too. So here's the most important truth. If you keep falling for that high chemistry, low compatibility relationships, it's not because you're broken by any means. It's because your body is simply chasing what it knows. But what's familiar to us doesn't necessarily equate to something that's fulfilling. Your history and how you've grown to perceive love to be doesn't have to be your destiny in romantic connections. The minute you start rewiring these patterns, love stops feeling like a roller coaster and actually starts to feel more like a partnership, a relationship where you can actually relax and connect and truly build something meaningful. And this is the work that I help my clients through inside my Love Mastery. We retrain your nervous system to perceive healthy love as exciting, and you learn exactly how to regulate through that uncertainty, how to pace connection, how to set your standards and actually connect with someone who meets you at those standards too. The emotional maturity, the calm, the peace that you're longing for in a relationship. If any of this has resonated, make sure you are hitting subscribe, because each week we're breaking down the real psychology behind lasting love, attraction, and emotional security. No games, no gimmicks, just science, self-awareness, and real growth. And if you're finally ready to get the love that you want for good and you're ready to shift all of this stuff that's been keeping you stuck in love, the link to my Love Mastery is right there in the description, so go and check it out. Chemistry lights the spark, compatibility builds that flame. And the woman who understands the difference between the two will never ever settle for chaos ever again.